Late Night Thoughts is back. An original series by TheRealDeanRyan Media. A podcast series is here to electrify the minds, numb the minds, but leave the way for the output. We are set, we are braced for impact. We dare to be stars. We will filled with fallen stars. Thanks very much. Okay. Thank you much. Welcome everybody to Late Night Thoughts. I am your thoughtful host here, Dean Ryan, who is coming at you. Back to my original start in a radio type of way, which is, I guess, is a foreign concept now in the world of, in the era of podcast, which I don't feel like I am a podcaster, although some view me as that. Just like I never really felt that Blondie was a disco group, but some people saw them as such. Or, anyways, I guess the lines are blurred. Tonight, yes, this is Late Night Thoughts. This episode is, I'm calling it rage baiting. Rage baiting. The thing with Late Night Thoughts is it is kind of a forum where you bring a bunch of different ideas and different people together, but also make some really killer points, and that's exactly what I'm going to make tonight. There's a lot of things happening, of course, and I can't be there for it, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But tonight I'm going to make the case about what rage baiting is, who's doing it, and how there's two people in particular that are doing it, and I'm going to make the correlation between the two and how that affects each and every one of us around here at Real Deal Media. You're going to learn why, and your mind is going to be mystified into a million pieces and fragmented pieces of genius. Okay, well, let's get to it here. And before I do get to anything, if you are kind of new, I should explain myself. Yeah, so like I was saying, you may or may not know, and you might be asking yourself, geez, Dean, what's with this new audio, only technician? Well, just a quick kind of review and review of what took place is I was hit by a virus, we believe, as many people have been getting hit in the cyber security world, the cyber attacks. Definitely StreamYard, this platform that's allowing us to present, they were hit, along with uh, you know uh, United Airlines, I believe it was, American Airlines, grounded twice in 1 month. So there's a lot of hanky panky going on, and you can really pinpoint that to uh, Project Pegasus, which is a tech virus that was created, established by Israel, given to the cartels. And what that entails and what that means in short is, and I've explained it before, but you get a weird, random text message or email, and it says, like, Sally says, "Hi, how are you? Are we still on for later tonight?" And you're like, "I don't know anyone named Sally Joe. Who's this?" Well, as soon as you click on it, you compromise your data. There's a data breach. And, this happens to Facebook routinely. They don't like to admit it, the data breaches that go on. And I see that too, because every time in regards to Facebook, anytime I've ever tried to use their mobile app, maybe I've tried it just a handful of times over how many years now? 15 years we've had that thing in our life. Weird stuff happens. I'll get locked out of my account. I've been told there's suspicious activity, and then I'm like screwed. So I don't mess with it. I don't use the mobile app. It's the most anyways. So that happened, and you might have noticed the past couple of shows. I've noticed like the past month, my audio has been going in and out. I'm unaware of it. Um, it got to a point where it was like rocket fuel that was about to burst from my computer, especially when I'm doing the live streaming. Like just jet fuel is about to come out of the computer, and it's pretty incredible to see the battery power just totally nosedive. So there's that, and it got to the point where it wasn't even reading and or recognizing my own microphone. So there's a lot of weird stuff going on. So that happened. Um, just a whole string of things happened. You know, like my vehicle broke down. I don't want to get into that one because it didn't look good on me. This all happened in the same week. Um, I got another, without getting too much into it, warning from someplace of, well, we've noticed you've been hanging out here, just all in 1 week. So I had like to flee and all these things and get out of Dodge and but yeah, but now it's to the point where the computer, my main flux capacitor of everything will not even start. So we're trying to revive it. Um, I'm in the running for a new computer, hopefully. In addition to, yes, this one I have to say, but I mean, if you're an editor out there and you know anything about editing, you know that Apple, particularly, makes the most incredible laptops, the products for editors, and it just nothing can compare to that. You know, you can't get a PC, Microsoft, anything. Just no comparison. So that's the holdup here, and it pains me to have to go through this all over again and again and again. And there's so many other things going on behind the scenes. But anyways, so there's the rehash of what's taking place here. So I do apologize to all the viewers, the fans everywhere around the world, even the people that hate me and they still love watching, and I love when they watch. I love when we watch together. Anyways, let's get right into this. I'm going to tell you something that's happening here, and there's things happening in the news for sure. You know, we got Mayor Boondoggle that is now dropped out of the race in New York. Yes, we do. We have more people throughout Southern California now claiming they were seeing, UFOs everywhere. Just incredible. We also have, we also have what has taken place in the Charlie Kirk thing. I mean, we've examined every aspect of that. Every aspect of that we've examined, and I don't know how much more we can do it. I really don't. So, God, yeah. So we have that happening. We have that happening. We also have. Let me tell you this, just just to get these things off my chest, because I'd be very remiss if I didn't at least tell you what's happening around the world. Just a little bit due to the circumstances. Um, so we have Mayor Boondoggle gone. We have Bobby Kennedy. You know, he's been a breath of fresh air lately. I know there's a lot of criticism towards him because of the wearables, which I'm one of those criticism practitioners, which is it is some form of surrender. But there's like the good and the bad, and before there was just the bad and the bad. There's now even the concepts of that people never even thought could be in their paradigm of thinking of nutrition, health. So there are a lot of great things, but he's now rejecting the UN Declaration on Chronic Diseases. Calls for focus on ultra processed foods and health and freedom. Which to me that sounds like. Let me translate that. It sounds like that is an assault That is an assault on American cheese, and I won't have it. I won't have all this negative talk on American cheddar. You could say it's not cheese after all, but you know what? It's your opinion, and we have the right to adhere to it or not. But he's absolutely correct. Now, this also coincides too, and I'm a little behind on some of these things, and you must excuse me too. It's been a literal week from hell. Um, in fact, I'm sure I can't believe how it can be this bad. But look at this here. Let me tell you the Tylenol discussion, which I didn't understand this when it came out, but they're saying now it's coming out of Natural News. Tylenol makers and FDA hid autism risk for over a decade as children paid the price. So when you were feeding yourself and or your kids Tylenol, and who hasn't, right? We went from aspirin, and then I think somewhere around the I don't know, somewhere in the 90s, if I can even remember and place a finger on it, there was like, why are you taking aspirin? You know that's bad for you. Why don't you take Tylenol? And we see this over and over and over and all these things. Cholesterol is bad for you. What are you eating that piece of steak for? Why don't you have anti-cholesterol? You know what I mean? And then the winos, the winemakers, they like, well, if you drink more wine, you'll get rid of your cholesterol. So this is some very wild, rascally stuff here. You have the naysayers that say, how dare you wag your finger at the miracle jabs for even insinuating that they may cause autism. I mean, I remember I had a know-it-all, holier than more centered morality of a nurse, medical professional of a cousin in Australia. I merely said, we should have a program where it could test like for clean miracle jabs, clean vaccines. And you would have thought that I slapped her mother in the face and threw a bucket of battery acid on her person, and she had a conniption fit. And that's the kind of cult like thinking. That's the kind of group think of a bunch of eggheads and all of their worshipers. That's how they thought for the longest time. Until then, it happened to them. Until it happened to them. Oh, these are safe and effective. I don't want to get the virus from the band who loved us. Until it happened to them. See, I'm a until it happens to me guy. I was, on many, many aspects, but on the things that I'm pretty spot on about bullseye and germ warfare and everything we've been through with 5 years. No, I'm pretty sure that this has been the case. When I was the guy protesting in 2015 in downtown LA with alongside Scientologists and Nation of Islam people just on the other side of the road, trying to prevent this monstrosity happening in California because that's where it spreads throughout the rest of the country. They started here and they trickle it down everywhere else. See, it's like it starts in Europe, gets to England, or in this case, it starts in Australia, New Zealand first, Australia second, and then England, then Canada, and then boom, blue states here. So, but let me tell you about this because I am wildly curious, and we'll get to our main focus and feature here tonight of everything. They're now saying for millions of expectant mothers, they have now come to a realization that the trust they put in Tylenol, a gesture of relief, sanctioned by doctors and deemed safe by public health authorities who know everything. That's right, they'll have you locked up if you say otherwise. See, the medieval times and all that kind of, prehistoric fascism, if you want to use that word. And I hate using fascism in that term because it's so overused. Just like solidarity and just like salam alaikum. I mean, until I can find another word, and people really should glom onto something else because I just there's something it just doesn't feel right. But anyways, enough about my issues. They're saying that There's a lot of cowardice involved, but here's the main points: is that internal emails now. This is the big one. Early as 2008 show that Johnson and Johnson, who by the way, total Satanists, total Satanists who run that company, and I think it's a prerequisite because if you're like a total, I don't know, Christian or a total Mormon. No, you're not going to be invited to the boardroom of the total Satanist Johnson and Johnson, smoky room. Well, get this now. The officials were privately concerned about credible evidence linking Tylenol to autism. Let me read that again. Internal emails, meaning the special folder, show that as early as 2008, Johnson and Johnson officials were privately concerned about credible evidence linking Tylenol to autism. Also, a Johnson and Johnson epidemiologist admitted in an email that their weight of evidence is starting to feel heavy. Yet the company took no public action. Now that is a key phrase there because that's gonna come in handy towards the end of this. So they knew it was bad. They took no public action. Now you could say incompetence. You could say got lost in the spam folder. Um, but you could also say too, yeah, they knew exactly what they were doing because this was the whole plan by design. Dumb down America, create special needs, get rid of the language, give more kids and everyone emoticons to do the language, get us back on the evolution chart, have us, regress back into primitive apes. Yeah, I know the evolution chart. Yeah, it's right up there at the food pyramid. We can hear you loud and clear. And but that's a different story. But there's this now. The FDA conducted its own meta-analysis in 2019 and 2022, confirming links to genitalia disorders and ADHD, and considered adding warnings. Despite internal acknowledgments, Johnson and Johnson decided against funding further research, fearing it would confirm the damning link. Yeah, they're just concerned. Now, publicly. Now, here's the irony. Publicly, they had a PR company, a spin-off company, subsidiary of sorts, called Kenview, who continued to deny any casual link of autism in their product, contradict their own internal assessments. So it's kind of like, the kids that get into the cookie jar, the candy drawer, and you get out of the kitchen, you come back in, and they just got chocolate all over their fingers and mouth, and they're saying, you said, what did you do? You're not supposed to have that. You're not supposed to eat that before dinner. And they're saying, what cookies? What candy? What are you talking about? No, there's nothing. There's no there there. Are you okay? See, that's what kids do, and there's not much consequence or nothing comes about it. But when you accuse these guys of putting their egghead know-it-all, I have 10 degrees and five, just these very academic intellects. They want to have you jailed. In fact, that's exactly what they do in Germany when doctors we're warning people not to get the miracle jabs. In worst case, they'll just kill you because they killed about 90 holistic right here in the United States. And I still want revenge for that. I want to know the people that ordered it and actually did it, and I'm going to chop their hands off. That's right, and I'm going to feed it to them because barbarians only know barbaric responses, and it's about time we have some barbarian consequences, don't you think? Come on, barbarians. I know you're out there. Okay, so now the revelations expose profound breach of the public trust, where corporations, regulators knowingly withheld critical information about the prenatal risk. I would say so, yeah. I would say so. And I'm not even adding the fact that these medicines, these over-the-counter pills, capsules, 80% higher or more, all were derived and manufactured in China, which people didn't want to believe me that the mask that people were getting were made in China, which they were stepping on it with their feet. I mean, that's the country that created and gave us, not fried rice. No, they gave us the anal swabs. Yeah, they put that little thought and theory and idea into the lexicon of people's overall to-do list. Okay, so that's what's happening there. Now, get this now. As I'm telling you this, so in relation to everything we're now learning about Tylenol, which I'd rather deal with a hangover than ever take a Tylenol again. If I ever see a doctor telling me or someone else to take Tylenol, I'm going to remind him that the anal swabs didn't just stop here in the Far East. They're now coming for a resurgency of their own here. So he better watch who he's trying to kill. And then I want to know the kill to live ratio with hospitals in general. I'd like to know that ratio. That's something that's really internal within the internal documents and emails that you probably can't find. But that's just my personal thing that I want. Now it's time for, as we know, the school season has started, and it's also now going into the holiday season. As we're now into October, and you know damn well, soon as it's now Halloween time, that's going to come fast. Then Thanksgiving and you know Rosh Hashanah, Rohoho, and Kwanzaa's and Christmas. I don't know why we got to say all those other ones. It's just like the old days. Stick to the main ones. No, we can't. We're going to be inclusive because who said so? No one's telling me anything. Well, anyways, before I go off the Star Trek reservation here, well, now the miracle jabs, the 1984 of COVID world, are coming back into the Christmas stockings early this year, as you many people are used to. I spoke to the guy who plays bass. I played keyboards with. I said, Jerry, I really hope to God, Jerry, that you didn't take the miracle jab. And I don't think he knew where my stance was or whatever. But he said, not only that, I just took a booster. I'm like, okay, well, oh, good. Well, Jerry, this might be the last time we talk to each other. You're going to be dead soon. And I hate to talk like that, but it's true grit talk. That's like the football coach talk, and it's coming to reality talk. And now the reality is sinking in, so much so to the point like the Daily Mail and other publications are having no choice but to publicize the following: that COVID vaccines, quote, COVID vaccines might raise the risk of cancer. Oh, gee, you don't say. You don't say. It's coming from pharmacists who are now besieged. They're saying it might increase the risk of cancer. And I have some news for them that the overconsumption of sugar might increase obesity too. I don't know if they're aware of that. They should put that little teaser out there too. They should also say, lack of oxygen might create dizziness. You know, thy who sit in pew, sit in church. Thy who sit in church, sit in pew. See, that's the doublespeak. So let's, yeah. So the contentious study claims, as it links jabs to 6 forms of diseases, including breast and prostate cancer. Well, the whole time they said eating, cold cut turkeys might get you prostate cancer. And the people who told you that had about 5 boosters in them. Just like when this whole damn thing was getting rolled out, that TSA woman who told me, sir, you got to have your mask on if you're going to be in this airport. I said, well, no. So you going to make me? Who's going to make me? I said, don't worry. You'll be getting your vaccine soon, sweetie. Oh, you know what she said to me? This is before it all rolled out. Just right as on the eve of it, she said, well, Oh, really don't care. I'm going to take it anyways. I said, you are? You're going to take it? She goes, well, I swear to God, she said this. She says, well, you don't even know what's in hot dogs. Oh, that's good. That's a good rationale to base your life and death, measurements on. In fact, you know what? I think you're right. You should take the miracle jab, and as you're taking it, you should also be eating a Chicago just hot dog from I don't know the gas station. You bumbling bimbo, get out of my way. TSA. What a stupid hag. Anyways, but that's the TSA, and we know how we feel about that. So yeah, so it might. So when we see all these things about turbo cancer, over the time or course of time, the past year or two, people dying from cancer, friends of mine, all of a sudden they got cancer, now they're dead. Yeah, that's what pains me too. Like people who are dying, the people who are dying, not knowing they're dying of the damn vaccine. There's so they say. I'm not going to self censor myself anymore, at least not for this story. So they're saying it may risk the certain cancers. Uh, we're not, in fact, we're so certain that it's going to risk certain cancers, but we're highly uncertain of which cancers that are, although we might know in our internal emails. A highly contagious study has now claimed that Korean researchers said that they found proof the miracle jabs, raise the risk of 6 types of cancer, including lung, breast, and prostate. For the other 3, well, you have to subscribe to their page to find out the other cancers. Gee, why not just list the 6? Why just tell us 3? Is there like a game we have to play, and so you know that we're not a AI and that we're human, like those stupid puzzles? Now the risk appeared greatest for over 65. They wrote in a journal owned by a respected scientific publisher, who we're not going to tell you his name, but he's highly respected, and yes, he is, and he's scientific, and yes, he is familiar with the research. But they did not explain exactly why the jabs may have increased the risk. So here's where the shadow of doubt comes, where they start planting seeds of doubt of these people are crazy. You're not going to believe that Korean guy, are you? We don't even know his name. This is where it happens. Experts today, experts today, okay, dismissed the study, labeling it superficially alarming, and warned its conclusions were hugely overblown. So experts today dismissed a respected scientific publisher. So the shadow puppet on the left side of the ball got in a fight with the shadow puppet on the right side of the ball. And we're not even sure what types of shadow puppets these are, but they got in a huge fight. They were all doubting each other. So the link between COVID miracle jabs and cancer has previously been dismissed also, in addition to by academics who are familiar with the cancer and oncologists after claims it had led to turbo cancers. Well, they're saying, oh, that's just a myth. And yes, we do get paid hugely by big pharma. But don't tell anyone. Don't tell anyone, because we're the shadow people. Scientifics have long warned that there is no credible evidence. I mean, so this is what I hate about Daily Mail. They go out of the way to suck you in with the headline. Then they put like it's like cigarettes today. You want to smoke tobacco, and then you buy their New World Order cigarettes, and you get about 5 to 10% of tobacco, and the rest are fillers that are there to harm you. That's what this article is. Now, it also comes as Reform UK, that's Nigel Farage over there in England, last week distanced itself from Asim Malharti, an advisor to U.S. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who suggested his conference that COVID miracle jabs were linked to the king and princess's wells of cancer. Yeah, it is. It is. If there's any usurped country in this world that is a totally groupthink, it is England. It is England, who kill their own people. And they should just admit it. They kill their own people. They put everyone on lockdown while they're all having, gay sex parties at Boris Johnson's, lion's den that he hung out in. That's what they should admit. We kill people, and when we get tired of killing people, we get radical Muslim people to do it for us, and then we kill them when they're done with our jobs. Because we're the parliament. We're the parliament of the funkadelic inbreds. All those people over there in the parliament. They do. I mean, look at Boris Johnson. Does his parents not look related? And I say that because the Windsors definitely were related. They're like, the Charles or this person, they married their second cousin, and they're not even British. They're German. They should be sent back to Transylvania. Anyways, this is what happens here. So I people that I got to distance myself because that's dangerous. Those people are called wimps because the numbers don't lie. And that's what it is. They hide the numbers. Right now at the CDC, there is a whistleblower who's been ready to go now for about 10 years with all of the autism linked charts with the MMR. 1 in 4 black kids now have autism because of the MMR vaccine. And it's all related. So when you're born, they take a vial of blood from you, they take it to the Pentagon because this is where they make the bioweapon studies, who they can harm the most without harming the other. When the miracle jabs rolled out in late 2020, early on, and then especially in 2021, who do you think they rolled it out to first? The natives, then the elderly, then the children, then the minorities. And overwhelmingly, too, it might I add, that the liberals of the United States took it because to them, it was the ultimate protest against Donald Trump. Yes, it was. It was a political statement. And, I could rehash this, living through all that. I mean, I must have been talking about miracle jabs for 3 years in a row. Then it was Elon for a year. Now, been talking about Donald Trump now for about 10 years now. So there you have it. So this is. I mean, the studies are coming out. They don't want you to see the studies. They want to throw those in the internal spam folder, I guess. But you're going to find that England is probably the biggest um, recipients of very bad poisonous miracle jabs that just have been maiming people, killing people, and they don't know why. Because they've been told to grin and bear it now for what, 7 decades? I mean, it's just incredible, and no one has a backbone to stand by a statement over there. And I just so, and the stupid article goes on. They lure you in. Then they go on to uppercut you with these charts of how many lives were saved by the COVID miracle jab. Well, studies in 2022 show. And then also, miracle jab males were more vulnerable to gastric and lung cancers too. But we don't want to talk about that. They were linked to increased risk of thyroid, colorectal, lung, and breast cancers too, if we might add, women that is. Oh my God, how this information get out? Please find out who did it. Call the cartel. Call BB. Cancer Research UK says there's no good evidence of any link between the jabs and the kids. Now, Cancer Research UK, I got to look into them because I swear these people, and then they tie on a country to it, like it's the Patriot Act. It's USAID. It's the Federal Reserve. You're not against the federal, are you? Speaking of which, yeah, a lot of IRS people were let go today. Uh, and not one tear was shed by anyone I know, especially me. So, and I love to speak to the shadowy Korean Cancer Association, and these associations can kiss my ass, because it's the associations, the institutions, same thing, that really got people into a real cluster with their own health, and they're paying price for it. The people that got Bell's palsy, the people that have cancer now all of a sudden, or even worse, the people that are no longer amongst the living. And some of those people who are not amongst the living are the ones who are trying to treat the living because they're dead inside, just physically, they're just hanging on. And I want to reference that to the Canadian health, or as I call it, the death minister. Yeah, that one. That one, yeah. You just look at that one or look at the one that looked like Beetlejuice from LA, and that's who's giving us advice. I'm telling you, these people literally crawled up from the grave. Okay, so speaking of that now, all that's happening, and there's a lot of other stories too. You know what? I should say that I should feel bad about this, but there's some not so much jeers, but some cheer. But because everybody's going autonomous now, and this was the whole plan of Uber. This was the whole plan of these rideshare institutions, these companies, was to use the human drivers to help them create the mappings they need for their artificial intelligence robots, the autonomous, who are taking over. And it's always like, oh, isn't that cute in the beginning? Oh, look at that little robot taking over for the sandwich artist at the subway. Oh, and we've heard this before when the transhumanists were coming to play, aka the trannies that were infiltrating society, but they infiltrated the LGBT first, or LGB, excuse me. See? And everyone thought, oh, look at that drag queen. Oh, they're trying to do story time. Oh, that will never catch on. Well, you know what? It did, just like all the other just depravity. In autonomy, robots, it's catching on. And let me tell people that this isn't just, well, we'll throw the dice out, we'll see what happens. No, this is being rolled out. This is a plan. They're like already 10 years in the future. They're already signing legislation for 2030, like Gavin Newsom, who signed it when we're all locked down. The Mother Buster is signing bills into law that no car will be driven by men by 2030, meaning um, we're going to have like domestic criminals, just start plowing people over in festivals and everything, so people will not trust the fellow common man to drive a vehicle because it'll be seen and viewed as and presented as a killing device. Yeah, that's right. That's right. And ask England about how that worked out for them for the knives. Oh, you can't have a knife that's too pointy. You might try to stab someone, although it might take you 30 times. You might stab. You might break the skin eventually. Okay, that was Australian, but you get the point. So, Dash, DoorDash has announced that they're going to be going autonomous with all their food deliveries, which then Uber, they said, well, we're going to beat you to that. They're doing it too. And I'm telling you, it's happening. And then it's going to happen to baristas at places like Starbucks too. And I should feel bad about that, but I'm going to tell you, I don't. I don't. And it's happening. I mean, look, it's happening in UPS. It's happening in FedEx. It's happening all across the board. It's happening with teachers. That's probably going to be a thing of the past. It's cheaper to have AI do it than it is to have a human. Had a friend of mine went to UCLA, graduated an English degree, travels the world teaching English, finally laid off. What are they going to do now? What are these people going to do now? So that's happening. That's the kind of real deal tech that's now underway. Here's another thing that's happening. So it's our fellow patron here, Jim Fetzer, has been under attack by the Victor Hugo character, and this is no joke. And and I get the people that say, well, just ignore it and it goes away. And I'm here to tell you it doesn't go away. Um, this has taken a life of its own, and he's attacked me, and he's a guy that's clearly being paid to do so, and he pretty much put his whole brand on the line, releasing 10 videos a day on Jim Fetzer. He's also attacking Mike Adams pretty hard, along with his this other guy, Dustin Nemos, who joins him. And Dustin Nemos is a complete heretic. And yes, these people are informants, and they act like it, they smell like it, I'm sure, but that's exactly what they are. The Victor Hugo guy has now even gone to great lengths to even put out videos now of Jim Fetzer getting knifed in the face, like a graphic, a cartoon kind of graphic, all over the place. Now, and the problem with this, and the problem with the just ignore them and they go away strategy is they don't go away, especially when they're getting assigned to um, their target of Jim or and other people, and especially when that your entire life's work, in Jim's case, all his work that he's done for the past 30 years plus, which can be found online. However, it can be found online once you get past the dust and all the soot of the poisonous, malicious, and deflammatory, slanderous content that creature, that total demonic piece of shit has put out there to poison the well on people like Jim. He tried to do it against me, it didn't work, but manipulating, clickbaiting, and so it's just everything you're searching goes there. But he's going too far, and now apparently he's gone after and has gone for quite some time, but more importantly recently, another gentleman in the industry. He does the SGT report, and I used to hear his show back way when a little bit, pretty solid show and good quality. Well, some things changed over the course of this past weekend. I found out that they started hitting back, and boy, did they find out some things. What Victor's doing, and he is this Victor Hugo guy, and I try to warn people, he was assigned to infiltrate the independent media. And in doing so, he goes on people's shows, like he went on my show. I didn't think any, he went on my show to discuss the topic of it was the Sean Puff Daddy Combs, and he claimed to be working at the same club as an artiste that Sean Combs was at, and I thought that was of very valuable and viable too information regarding the story. So he came on, and I tell people it's the World at War show. It's going to be maybe 7 to 10 minute segments on what you saw, what you seen. And he probably did a fraction of that and went straight into the Jews and everything about the Jews and everything, Israel. And, a little bit okay, but it kept going and going and going. And I didn't understand why, and he wouldn't stop. I had to cut him off. Cut him off. But he's been doing this to everybody. And the reason being is because with all those, right after October 7, 2023, right off the bat, right away, all these hate speech laws started coming into play, or protection legislation for Jews in America. I didn't understand why. Well, because there's a protest for Palestine, and okay, it might be infiltrated by communists, or whatever the case, but still, we're going to make protected class more protected class. So that was odd to me. Fast forward to where we are now. Well, we have Marco Rubio, who's now in charge of the State Department, USAID. Also is seems to be hiding the USAID fines linking that particular NGO, that charity backed by U.S. Taxpayer dollars, of the incredible funneling of money to the big bad wolves over there in Palestine, Hamas. Yeah, they don't want that to come out in a FOIA request, a Freedom of Information Act. But take that and put that aside, and you add to it that Marco Rubio has the power now. He said he has the power. And he's called the Great Satan, they call him over there in South America, but he's now anyone who criticizes or they say it's hate speech against Israel, they're going to take your passports and, if not more, away. Now, this happened. So there was a guy who is on a limited, like independent media over there in Canada named Son of Enos, who the Canadian authorities, the Canadian government did a 7-month investigation on him. They did 7 months on him and found that he had hateful speech against Israel and Jewish people, and he's now sitting in prison. Now, when you look further into that 7 months, well, it was just 7 months prior he started having Victor Hugo on his show, quite frequently. And those were the things that were used against him in court. Now, Victor says, "Oh, I didn't know anything about it." No, he knew. He knows exactly what he's doing, and he's intertwining people. He tried to do this on Jim's show. Jim, did I don't know why foolishly put him on the show, and that's all he did. And he is compromising people, and that's why he's trying to go on every major big show to get people into a quagmire of a mess because of all these new speech laws coming out, and they don't care if you could say you could claim ex post factoid. You're charging me for a crime now for something I did a long time or said or did a long time ago that is totally without of range, focus, or jurisdiction. It don't matter. It don't matter. So, and that's what it is. And he's getting people to rage against Israel and the Jews to then highlight and target them. Now, take what I just shared with you right there, because this is a big story. And Jim Fetzer has a $60 million lawsuit against Rumble and BitChute, who won't do a damn thing. Why, you might ask? Why won't they allow that to take it down? Don't you think they would take a hateful person like that down? Well, I also thought they would take a hateful person down who was going against me, the stalker crazy woman. Facebook didn't take that down. They could care less. Sheriff said, "Oh, well, we're well aware of who she is. Yeah, she's only been 5150, 28 times." Now, take the Charlie Kirk scenario. This is very critical. This is key. And I'm, still piecing it all together, and we can have the critical debate of whether he's alive or got shot or not till the cows come home. Put that one aside for a minute. But look at overall what has come down into legislation and all around us since then. Well, first of all, they have the Kirk Act. Anyone who says harmful things about Charlie Kirk or crazy conspiracy theories, we must punish. Well, they just don't create these things overnight. So this was already in the works, right, JD Vance? JD in the stink face. But I always thought, now, how it's over the top. They got the fake wife. They got the fake funeral. But why in the world would Netanyahu just come out of the blue and just say, "By the way, we didn't kill Charlie Kirk. These are insane. Stop it. Stop blaming Israel. Who are you? We didn't do anything." That is the most ridiculous thing you could ever do. Who does that? Now, why are they doing that? Why is he doing that? Why is this so over the top, crazy, and so boldly brazen and polarizing? Is exactly the same playbook that Victor Hugo is doing on Jim Fetzer and a whole host of us, Mike Adams, myself, is because they want Americans to rage. Just like the lockdowns. Remember the lockdowns happened? They, like, why were they did the lockdowns, and then people who were against it, they were allowing them to protest. Then why they allowed it? Because they wanted to see what counties, what cities, what demographic of people, what politically demographic of people were going to be against the lockdowns. And when that happened, we had Hillary Clinton and the Joe Biden, we had them come out and say they should be classified, all of us, as domestic terrorists. And that's exactly what's coming down the pikeway here, because it's not the so-called radical left, Israel and the administration's worried about. That's not who they're worried about, because they don't have the power. And a lot of them are feds, and they're not as savvy and as momentum driven as the MAGA people who are now disenfranchised with a lot of what they've been seeing the past year and more, but really disenfranchised with the whole Israel connection. And that's what this is. This is a honeypot of a way. Um, they purposely made this like like Israel is the bad guy, and had this Netanyahu guy come out to get people to rage, to then tag them, leash them, and ultimately get them taken down and label them to left-wing radicals, right? Because many people who dare criticize Trump are labeled that right off the bat. Very sensitive, very sensitive. And it's like, have we learned nothing before this? Have we learned nothing since 2001 and 9/11? Have we learned that anything about politics, what you put out there, can and will be used against you by your opposition, which is why I'm all for we need a healthy opposition in this country. And if people who are disgusted by Trump and Republicans and conservative this now and go running back to the Democrats, that's another grave mistake. Another grave mistake. It's more Plato's cave theory there. So this is what they call rage baiting, and that's what it is. It's rage baiting. When the election was stolen, they knew Americans were going to be raging. They knew that there was going to be some kind of protest in D.C., and they wanted them to go to that raging protest because it was a trap and they were going to be brought to the slaughter. The biggest voices of that time, too, who you really don't hear much from anymore, but you can't blame them. They've been sitting in jail. The Proud Boys, the alt-right, and that term alt-right, yeah, it's all gone. Bye-bye. Stuart Rhodes, all these people. Yeah, rage baiting. So yeah, so in everything that's being raged and everybody who's raging right now, it's all going to be used. They're going to try to use that against you, just like what's going on with the Bundy Ranch over there in Nevada. They use that against them. Everything they allowed Pete Santilli, the hack, the hack journalist. I'm a radio house guy. Yeah, that guy. All his footage used against that family by the prosecution, and that's what they're doing here. So it's very clear to me here what this is, because none of it makes sense. And as it's happening, there's there's things happening in China. There's happening in the South China Sea. There seems to be some kind of false flag that U.S. or somebody trying to start with China, maybe get them into a conflict so we can finally get a big war on. Well, they're like, well, it got FDR out of the Great Depression. Well, maybe it will get us out of the greatest depression, the greatest depression. And but and yeah, people like Comey and all these people now they're getting indicted, and I got to tell you, how many of you out there are like saying, I feel so much better that James Comey's indicted, James Clapper, and they're circling Obama. But is your future secure? Is your life feeling better? Do you have food on your table? Do you have gold in your 401 IRA account? Sorry, I had to say that. But there's not a lot of people who I can see that are just doing cartwheels right now. I mean, granted, yes, these people deserve some, if not all, punishment. But that's not going to satisfy the palate of people who are still America first, whether the people in power or not, or they're America maybe second, someone else first. People are pissed because the arrest or whatever these things, the charge or the mention of it should have happened a long time ago. Like, we should not have had to endure the years of 2021 all the way to 2025 That should have never happened. Everything that occurred, all the rollouts of the miracle jabs, the Tylenols and the linkage to Bobby Kennedy being on the miracle jab oversight committee in back in 2017, and they got let go right away after Bill Gates got involved. That should have never happened. Bill Gates should never been involved. Israel should never even have a foot in the door of this government, of this federal government, of the even this conversation. They're the biggest welfare recipients who have been part of every assassination event in American history. And that's coming out, and that's why they're scared shitless, because they're on their last leg. So when Netanyahu came to do the presser the other day, he had to remind Americans that Israel has entrance into everybody's cellular phone. And he's right, because they'll explode them. They'll explode them. And they were making that was a sign and symbol what they did or they didn't do to Charlie Kirk. It was a shot heard around the world, and it was done and blamed on the American people. You see that? That's the ultimate gaslight magic trick. But it was the left who did it. And then it's going to be the dirty left who criticize what the truth is from the MAGA FBI. They're to blame too. They're disrespecting the families. Charlie was a good guy. Yeah, well, his fake wife is not a good actress. There's a part of me too, and you know I'm behind on things, but I think he's dead, and I think maybe the wife too. I mean, it's such a liability. Just the smirk on his face. But anyways, so this is happening, and people are sick of it so much so that New York is preparing to elect a mayor who did not kowtow at kissing the Israeli ring. And he's going against the big old gorilla there, Cuomo, who just won't go away. Cuomo won't go away. They won't. So that's how it's just some weird late night thoughts there. And, you know, it's so disheartening at times, but on a positive, this has unified people so much so. And but to even think that, you know, people are dancing because of the death of this kid, you know, Charlie, people on the left, no, I find that very hard to believe. And the ones who are doing it because the cameras are there, they're paid to do it, and they're fringe elements, but nobody's cheering on death. What people are really sad about is the death of this U.S. Constitution, what it stands for, and how the how this country has been usurped. But we have the power to take it back, and all these laws that come out, hate speech this, hate speech that. You know, when they take Jimmy Kimmel down, as much as I can't stand Jimmy Kimmel, I think he's an operative. I think he was placed there. I think he's heavily blackmailed. There's something that took place that Charles Schumer has his number on. But I'm not going to sit here and applaud. I'm not going to applaud censorship because it always starts with the person who's the most polarizing, biggest mouth that you know deserves some sort of punishment. But what I don't deserve is the punishment that's going to come for me next because I didn't stop it when it started with the most unpopular person. That's the problem. People don't learn from history. The only thing they do learn is, well, history. What history? They don't learn because it repeats itself. So I'm going to end it there here on late night thoughts here. I hope this is a members only type of ordeal. You want to become a member, go to realdealmedia.tv. Realdealmedia.tv. I'm going to try to get back to things as normal as usual very soon. And I appreciate everybody, especially our night owls, for sticking with me in these very trying times. On that note, I'm going to leave it there now. I want to thank all of you for tuning in here at a very late night. So for all of us here at Real Deal Media, I'm Dean Ryan, reminding you to always remember to stay tuned and stay awake. Good night, everybody. Good night.